Hello everyone, welcome back to My Creative Ego. I found this at my store and it was a really great price, so I decided to pick it up. It is the Tim Holtz Distress Paper Mosaic Kit, and the instructions sounded simple enough. We have grout, glue, and glaze, and to make it even more simplified, the bottles are even labeled 1, 2, and 3. I figured I would try using this to make some decorative plates, so this is one of the examples that I made, and I am using this set of plastic plates. It was only $1.50 for a pack of 8. Again, they are meant to be decorative plates, or at least that's what I intended it to be. I would suggest, or no, I would highly recommend that you guys also watch the original version of this video by Tim Holtz. I'll also put it in the description box down below, and that is where you will learn how to properly use this product. I guess my methods are a bit unconventional, but they really worked for what I was using it for. So I thought I was off to a really great start because instead of using a palette knife, I thought I would use a plastic spoon because there are some ridges and some grooves in this paper plate, or plastic plate rather, and I thought a plastic spoon would work better. And then I also went with some paint brushes, some scissors, and of course this little, this little laminated piece of tag that I thought would also help me get into the nooks and crannies of the plate. So we'll start off with number 1, which is grout. I will say that the plastic spoon in my case was only helpful in getting the grout out of the container, because as you can see here, it was really hard to try to paint this grout onto here using the plastic spoon. And then I moved on to the actual paintbrush, which seemed to work good at first, but I think, depending on how you're using it, you also want to be really, really careful when you're using the paintbrush, because if you apply too much pressure, you could also be wiping the grout off. And then I moved on to the laminated tag, and that was just helpful in spreading the grout everywhere. But as you can really see, it was hard trying to get an even layer of grout on here, and like I said, because this is a really uneven surface to begin with. So I'm going to try this again using a method that's a bit unconventional. So we're going to do grout take 2. So as you can see, the first plate, there is, again, lots of thick and thin layers, which is going to make it hard for me to actually put the paper down evenly, because as you can see, some will be high and some will be low. And I figured this is another method that I worked on. And as you can see, it's not a thick coat on here, and that's because I was really trying to conserve my grout, because I wanted to make sure that I had enough coverage for 8 plates. So what I did was I just took a glob of this grout and I put it on my glove, and I'm basically just using my glove like a brush, and I'm going around the entire surface of this plate. I just want to make sure that all the plastic portion of the plate is covered, and I'm trying to get this as even as I possibly can. So ideally, if I didn't plan on covering 8 plates, I would have made the layer of grout a lot thicker so that it'd be more opaque, but I'm still very, very happy with how my plates turned out. And when you are done applying the grout, you definitely need to make sure that this completely dries. Drying time varies depending on a lot of variables, especially how thick your grout is, but you'll definitely be able to tell based on the texture and the feel of the plate, or the grout rather. Now we get to step 2, which is the gluing stage. And this particular stage, you also want to choose the type of paper you'll be using for your project. So I'm going to use a mixture of cardstock and glitter cardstock. This glitter cardstock is actually the one that has the paper backing on it. And so I'm starting off by, well, I should say that I actually prepped the center of my plates using some Circle Sizzix framelit dies. And also, if you have a pattern in mind that you want to use, like I'm doing here, when you cut those pieces out, it'll be a lot simpler to put them in order as you cut them out, so that when you glue them onto your project, it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and you're not busy trying to shuffle all the pieces around. So when I'm gluing everything, basically I put a little bit of glue on my project first, and then I take my paper piece and then I put a little glue on there, and then I put that onto the project. And you also want to make sure that you press firmly on these items, especially around the edges and the corners, so that they don't lift up. And then for the edge of the plate, I'm going to finish that off with some glitter paper. And on this particular one, there's no particular pattern I need to follow, so I'm just randomly cutting out my pieces of paper, and I am sticking on the biggest pieces first, and then I'll go back later on to fill in the smaller areas with other pieces of paper. But again, following the exact same gluing method that I did earlier. And when you are finished laying down all of your paper and they're all in place, you actually want to take a little more glue and you want to actually go over those paper pieces again. So I'm basically just covering the entire surface of this plate with glue. So that's what you're seeing here. So this also has a drying time. It needs to be completely dried before you start step number 3. So I let this dry overnight, actually a little bit longer than that because I wasn't able to get to this project until late in the evening the next day. And as you can see, it is completely dried. And all I have to tell you is I just want to buy this glue by the bucket full. Like seriously, I am so impressed by this glue. I like it a lot better than the decoupage glue that I'm currently using, and yes, it just looks really, really nice, and you'll see in my example later on, because I will show you the other plates that I made as well. That will be towards the end of the video, but it really has a nice effect, kind of like when you're painting canvas, and I just love it. Absolutely love, love, love this glue. And yay, it is finally step 3. So on this particular stage, we just get our glaze, and I just go over the edge of my paper, and I'm going to do this on this particular plate for all of the paper pieces that I put on here. So I'm going to start off with the center first. So I just go over the edge of the paper and I just kind of fill it in. And then for the top portion, because my plate is not on an even surface, and that's another thing you really, really want to keep in mind when you're doing this, because when you're doing part 3, if you are working on an uneven surface, there is a good chance that the glaze might spill. So you just want to be really careful, and I just kind of watched each piece as I put it on there, and if it started to drip towards the side, I would clean that up. So this again also has another drying time, and because I started it late in the evening, I again just waited overnight. And then you have your completed project. So I do want to go over some of the examples that I did use on here. And so the first one, I'm using, again, some foiled cardstock, some regular cardstock, and some glittered cardstock. This is the glitter cardstock that actually has the plastic backing to it. And I noticed that this one can lift when you're putting it on, so you just want to keep an eye on that as well. The next item I tried was using origami paper. So I have your really thin origami paper, and then I have your double-sided origami paper with the metallic on here. And then I added another step by just putting some glitter glue. So I used magazines on this one, and I wasn't really sure how the magazine would hold up to the glue and the glaze, but I gotta say, I'm so super impressed by it, and that is actually the reason why I was raving about the glue in part 2, because this really has like a painting type effect to it. And I was very selective on where I put the glaze on, so in the center, you only see the glaze around the sunglasses and on the lips, and also on the outer edges. I also added some distress ink to the outer edges of this plate. And then in the center of the plate, I was really careful when I was adding the distress ink here because, like I said earlier, I did not glaze the entire center of the plate. On this one, I actually used some gift wrap on here, and I cut around the gift wrapped images, and then I went and glazed everything on here, and then I went over that after it dried with some paint dabber by Ranger. then I went over that with some paper towel, and then some of the paint looked like it kind of dulled the images on the glazed images, so I just went over that with some water, and then I wiped that, and as you can tell, it does kind of make a difference. So just on the glazed images, I wiped that with water, and then I went over that with paper towel again. And for the rest of the plates, I will just kind of do a slideshow of that. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk more about where I bought this item at in my next video, which should be coming up here soon, maybe later on today. It will be a haul video. So if you haven't already and would like to see more of my videos, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell if you want to be notified of all of my new videos. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful day.